Palpatine has had enough. Wanting to capture the Spectres, he calls in the big guns, Special Forces, and a Moff with experimental Dark Troopers. With Hera away on a mission, Sabine tries to use her Mandalorian connections to recruit reinforcements. Din Djarin doesn't want to help, but Grogu recognizes Kanan, his friend from school. They join the cause, but will it be enough? Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Bomb Bad Battle Report. I'm happy to say that I am now getting my hands on all the new releases, so that should make for some exciting content coming up. As of recording the video for this battle report, I had all the Spectres painted, but I didn't have Thrawn yet. So I'm going to save the full Spectre team for more of a thematic matchup. As I record the audio, he's on the desk right in front of me, so hopefully that doesn't take too long. We're still going to use a bunch of Spectres here today, but not the full Spectre team. So let's dive into the lists. For the Rebels, we've got Kanan and Ezra, a great pair as always, and then Rebel Commandos are making their debut, a great unit as well. And then we've got the Mandalorian himself, joined by Sabine and Chopper. I like having Chopper under Sabine because that gives her someone nearby who she can move with her tactic and then move towards to get her free focus if she needs to. So that's kind of why they're divvied up like that. I really enjoy this team, got a few reps with them off camera as well, so excited to put them on camera for you today. Then on the Imperial side, we've got Iden, her box, and Moff with his box. So a nice, simple 2-box list. I like it when that happens. And of course, we're going with ISF over Del today because the 2 bodies is just really nice to have. Del does give shoves, which maybe are more handy in this particular matchup because we've got revenge triggers from both Kanan and Mando, but we'll keep an eye out for that. And of course, there's just so much firepower here at range, especially with the Iden team. But honestly, Moff, with those extra dice, he can also help the melee profiles of these units too. And the Iden squad is not that bad at punching, if we're honest. So it will be a good one. Maybe a bit of a tough matchup for Iden and crew because of all those revenge triggers, but we'll see how it plays out. Kanan and crew won the roll-off and chose Sabotage Showdown as the objective. I chose this side because I thought the elevated back objectives were maybe a bit more takeable. For the Imperials, I wanted to make sure there were units contesting on the proper elevation just as a backup for those, and then got a little aggressive with the ISF, hoping to maybe swarm that right side. The first card is Secure the Exits, which I find doesn't do much in Struggle 1, but who knows. And the Rebels are going to start with Chopper. Not a unit I'd love to go with early, just because of how his ability works, but I want to save the Force. I don't think it's worth reserving him, so off we go, advance, and take the Ingress, and then just take cover for our second action. Taking that left side and having a little bit of extra cover to help against all those ranged units. And both sides, of course, taking their home objectives as well in Struggle 1. Nothing too glamorous going on here. One thing I was thinking about back in deployment was that Chopper is immune to pin, and ISF and Iden love pinning, so he's not bad over there. And then we've got the Death Trooper Escort for the Imperials. Just measuring here, kind of thinking about whether I want to use Force or not, who I want to move. Unfortunately, I can only get one of those ISF guys up. Can't take that objective, so instead we'll just get the Dark Troopers kind of moving upfield, maybe get their coordinated fire aura going a bit more, or just generally getting them in a more flexible position on their turn. And we'll go aggressive with the Death Trooper, spending 1 to dash and focus, which will open up our first action as an advance up the Ingress. This opens up our second action to attack those Rebel Commandos through the door, and not too bad of a roll. We will get an extra expertise damage, giving us a total of 3 damage, disarm, and shove, kind of knocking that guy out of dash range to get up onto that objective. So not too bad. And the disarm, of course, is good too. That Death Trooper will take his objective, score 3 for the Empire, and they're off to an okay start. That Death Trooper is not a bad option to have contesting early because of his reactive reposition. And then the Rebels are going to get Sabine. She's not on the right side, but again, I don't really want to pay 2 for the reserve, So I think we'll go with her. It's pretty tight on the advance, so we'll see what happens there. But first, her tactic move will get Ezra going up the ladder. And I wasn't really thinking about the body block here. I probably should have put him a little more to the side, but c'est la vie. So now this is for all the marbles, and Sabine just barely gets the range one on the ingress. So that will be a bit of extra distance, which could be critical because she is only a range 4 gun with her pistol. She is within range 2 of Chopper when she ends the move, so that's a free focus. So it's going to be a 9 dice attack, and yeah, we can get there for sure, because if this guy's in range to get to the objective, then we can shoot him back with our range 4 gun. That is the risk you take with using Infiltrate aggressively. Not a bad roll at all from Sabine, getting 3 crits and an extra disarm from Expertise. A total of 5 damage and a strain. That's going to be really good, especially since the ISF are not getting their heal. They can't really do anything without becoming wounded right now, as the Empire draws their Shatterpoint. I would love to move those ISF up with Aiden, but again, that will kill them, and they won't be especially useful when it comes to flipping an objective. Not a great situation because of what Sabine was able to do there with those triple crits, but I think we'll still go with Aiden, try to maybe get a kill, so she will dash just Hask up the ingress, shore up that objective just in case the rebels come in for the kill, and then Aiden gets her own dash as well. My thinking here is to chip away at bodies while the revenge triggers from Kanan and Mando are not going to be particularly effective, and that will make it easier for us to flip the objective. So Aiden spends 1, dashes easily within range 4, so she's going to get her focus. Shooting Chopper while we can, and he gets a great defense roll, getting all the hits blocked. However, Aiden will get 5 whole crits through, which is just enough despite Chopper's immunity to pin and his protection. So Aiden will give a disarm to Sabine, and then she's going to heal off the ISF with her identity before dashing. That's why we kept her there, and now they are free to move around. The rebels get 2 triggers. Kanan will go first. No one to heal, but he does get to move and even do an attack if he can somehow get range. But this is why I was talking about with that Ezra body block. But it is closer than I thought, and Kanan just barely has range 4, which I didn't think he would. So this will actually be a relatively effective trigger as he takes a shot at the Death Trooper. 3 down the tree is actually really good. That's going to be 5 damage down to 4, shoving off the elevation and getting a pin, which will mess up that revenge. Not really revenge, but reactive trigger. So the Death Trooper will not spend a force to remove the pin, I don't think. Mando also has nobody around to heal. That's fine. He just gets to do his reposition, so he'll get closer to the fight. Then he should have Sabine. Yeah, she is within 4, so she will remove her condition, get a hunker, but it immediately goes away thanks to Aiden using her second action to climb up and contest. So she doesn't flip, but she does take advantage of the opportunity to kill Chopper, and then maybe someone can come and deal with Sabine. Mando next for the rebels. I'm not thrilled to keep getting people on that side of the table, but we'll make it work. Mando will have an opportunity to take that back objective, I think, if all goes well. So let's go for it. Again, I don't want to spend 2 to reserve. Take the advance and go up the ingress for a little extra distance. I'm thinking Clan of 2 will take care of Hask, and then Mando's attack will hopefully take care of those ISF before they have a chance to do anything. So attacking first, 2 down the tree is all we need for 3 damage and a shove, which will get the wound on those ISF. So we're halfway towards what we need. Mando will follow up there. Unfortunate because I don't think the dash alone would be able to cross that bridge. So he won't end the turn on the correct level, but that's okay. We're spending 1 for Clan of 2, and then knocking Hask backwards, range 2. So even though Mando's not on the correct level, no one else is around, and he will flip that and threaten a nice reposition to some nearby objectives as well if the Empire comes and kills something. So I really do like that threat from Mando. Now, in response, the Empire gets ISF. So they're going to wake up from being wounded. And, I think it's good for them to go because they could potentially flip both objectives here. The problem is Mando is currently engaged with one of them. So if I want to climb up, I'm going to have to either take cover or pay 2 force for the dash. And I'm not sure I want to pay the 2 force right now. So a bit of a conservative play, but we're going to start by taking cover for a little bit of extra distance, get us out of engagement, and then take a move action second. So the top guy going and joining Iden to outnumber Sabine 2-1, and then the bottom guy climbing up to be on the correct elevation and steal that objective away from Mando. So no shots being fired, but 2 objectives flipped. So the Empire answers the Rebels scoring 4 by scoring 4 of their own. Not too bad. How are the Rebels going to respond now that they have only 2 objectives? They get their own Shatterpoint. So that seems... I could do some really big plays. I'm looking at Kanan here as a potential, maybe get a shot, maybe even get a kill on that Death Trooper, get Ezra up to that objective. The problem is this side of the board, I've gone with everybody. So if I go with the Shatterpoint 2, I have no one to go on that side of the board. So I think it's best spend 1, shuffle it back, and look, we get Kanan anyways off the top of the deck. So that worked out really well for us. Luckily, Gideon is not increasing the cost of that Shatter Shuffle. So Kanan is going to use his tactic on Ezra, gets him up the ladder, and we will definitely be able to secure that objective by having the right elevation. Kanan gets his own dash, so that will bring him down. And just trying to get the distance. And I think our first action is going to be that attack. And we're going to see what happens and then decide what to do with our next action. A big 4 crits down the tree is going to be 7 damage, down to 6 with protection, double shove to get that Death Trooper even more out of position, and a sweet, sweet reposition for Kanan. So we've got the wound, we're going to follow up to get a little bit of distance on that shove, and then the reposition will allow us to be in position to attack that objective in the back where the Dark Troopers are currently. Since they're on the level below, Kanan will be able to either climb or just hit the ladder and go up. So we're making sure to stay out of engagement on our reposition, which does open up the climb. And I think we'll go that route rather than the ingress, just to have a little bit more positional flexibility on where we place Kanan. So Ezra stole 1 objective, Kanan takes another. Everybody's flipping 2 objectives here. The Rebels are going to score 4 once again. Really good turn, and we didn't have to burn the Shatterpoint to do it. So we still have flexibility there if we need help on the other side of the table. And Iden, the Shatterpoint target of Empire earlier in the game, this is her actual order card now. She has secured everything on her side, but I'm looking at maybe returning the favor of killing Rebel Commandos before they can activate. Just because... right now, Kanan and Mando are not really in a position where they would do much with their triggers. So now seems like an opportunistic time. We will get our dashes with Iden on one of the ISF who's in range. So he's going to just body block that ingress point and kind of secure it. The other guy is engaged, so he doesn't get the dash. But Iden still gets her own dash from her tactic. So she will go down a level and start moving towards that Rebel Commando whose days are probably numbered. We shall see. She'll spend 1 to dash and get her focus, an extra die. Staying in burst fire for the attack. Iden's going to get 4 crits down the tree. She is the crit queen today. That is 6 damage, expose, shove, and pin. That is a wound on the commandos, so she will give Sabine a strain this time, I think. No one to heal, and she gets a dash, so she's just going to kind of dash over, staying out of engagement, because she does still have an action. Kanan, he's not really going to heal much, but he does scooch over a little bit, and Mando will use his revenge trigger to reposition up the ladder and just kind of secure that backline objective a little bit better with 2 tanky dudes. That does mean Sabine keeps her strain, unfortunately, but I think I want to hold on to objectives here. And then, of course, Iden, as we said, taking cover for that extra defense. Rebels, now they get their commandos right after they became wounded, sort of like the ISF. They'll remove their disarm as they wake up and then spend 2 for a dash and focus. Now, that guy will engage Iden for the moment to get range 5 on those ISF. But the first guy, he shed the pin on the dash, he's shooting Iden, and that will be enough to get 3 down the tree with a pin, disarm, and a shove, which knocks Iden out of melee with the other rebel commando, opening them up to shoot the ISF and maybe take that objective back. And they will definitely get the shove there. Good roll. We're going to do 2 down the tree, which is enough to get not only 2 damage and a pin, but that almighty shove, allowing Sabine to take back that objective eventually. And I decided I do want to follow up the shove with this rebel commando. He engages Iden, and maybe that will make her next turn a little trickier, being pinned, disarmed, and engaged, so less mobility options. And 2 flips, rebels scoring 5. That's really, really good for them. The Empire draws Moff Gideon, and I think whoever we go with, we're not going to be able to flip enough objectives to make a game of this, so we're just going to treat this like a setup turn. I'd love to remove the pin from the ISF, but they are just out of range, so Gideon will tell other Gideon to do the dash, and we'll start moving him a little bit more central, since that middle objective should light up in most configurations in the next round. 2 out of 3, it will be active. So other Gideon is going to go up the ingress, hopefully leaving a spot in case Moff wants to go there. Moff gets his own dash. Technically speaking, they should have dashed in the opposite order, but I don't think that's really going to change anything here. And then we're actually just going to take the advance with Gideon, because we want to shoot back the other way here at Mando. But unfortunately, Gideon is just out of range 2 on the middle, so he will not start contesting it, which is unfortunate. And even with the wrong range tool, I am still out of range of the commando. So shooting Mando, that's going to be 3 down the tree once we account for the extra Hask hit, which will be 4 damage with a disarm. And I forgot to mention the coordinated fire strain. There's also a pin from expertise, so Mando is well and truly conditioned up. Rebels redraw their Shatterpoint, but I'd rather start next struggle with it, so we'll pay our last force and get Ezra instead. He is just going to move central. He is starting just out of range of these Dark Troopers, so we'll have to start with the advance. I was hoping to maybe be able to shoot them and get his reposition so I could climb up. But we'll take a shot at Gideon. Only 1 crit is going to get through, but that will be fine. We get a shove and a damage, and that will allow not only Moff to be even more off the objective than he already was, but it will allow Ezra to follow up onto that middle objective. And he's also just a big threat there with the out-of-activation movements he can do to maybe jump up onto the correct level. And once again, the Rebels are going to score 5 points and take the struggle. The next layout we've got is we need more time, or the wiggle, as I like to call it. So the Empire is locked into taking the middle, and then they can either choose the Commando and ISF objectives on kind of the bottom/left of the screen here, or they can choose the Mando Kanan and Commando options. I don't want to start down 0-3 on objectives, and I think there's just more Imperial firepower on kind of that left side of the board. So that is the option we're going to take. And the double, starting on the one that they do control, so that's very nice, as Dark Troopers are going to start the round. They can certainly get to the middle, and they like being in the middle with their coordinated fire. But to start, we will take a move action and advance both of them. They say hello to Ezra, but they'll say goodbye as they pop their rocket boots for 1 force and jump on up to the top. I was thinking about maybe going after the Rebel Commando here, trying to maybe flip that objective. I figured it was going to be too difficult or too maybe unlikely to try to flip that, though maybe I should have just gone for the tie. Instead, we're going to try to shoot and pin Ezra. The first attack is not bad, but he will get his reactive dash. So 4 damage, shove, pin. He gets an expertise dash thanks to those 2 expertise he rolled, so he will immediately remove the pin. So we're going to attack him again, but not a good roll, even with the extra hit from Hask. Ezra blocks everything and gets a dash, so he'll be able to dash back towards the middle and be in a very disruptive position. That's not what we wanted. The whole point of this play was to make the middle more secure and have Ezra far away, and he's just undone that, and that Rebel Commando is still securing their objective. So we didn't accomplish anything good there except getting onto that middle objective, which is still something, and the double's in a good spot, at least, for the Empire. I'm looking at Kanan, of course, for that Shatterpoint. He can do a lot with no force. I think there's a play here to flip everything if Sabine can dash into that far objective, because maybe we can knock the ISF away. However, with the tactic dash, Sabine is maybe a millimeter short, so just barely not getting there, which would have been an amazing play, but unfortunately just not quite able to do it. So in that case, we'll take a little bit more of a conservative approach with Kanan. He gets his dash down, which then brings him up the ingress, and we're going to take a focus and shoot at this ISF and use the shoves to bring us back down onto the objective. That is a fantastic roll from Kanan, getting 5 down the tree. That's going to be 8 damage, giving us the wound, a double shove, repositions, and we get triple heals, which we're going to use on Sabine, which is good because she did trigger that strain when we dashed her earlier, which took 3 damage, so now we can take that 3 damage off eventually. I was just hoping to get 3 at least for the double shove, so that we could take this objective 1-0, but getting the wound on those ISF so that, next activation after they go, they're going to be removed from the game, that's really good. And here we see just the nice flexibility of Kanan. When he does run his tree, he gets that reposition and then 3 heals, so he can reposition to just within 2 of Sabine. So because Sabine came up just short, we weren't able to control all the objectives and score 4 points, but 3 is pretty good, especially with that wound. And the double comes up on Kanan, but the Empire is going to get Hask, which is not a bad play because he can definitely go and take that objective back. Kanan does get a dash usually on his defensive expertise, so I'm just making sure that he can't really use it to go and take the other objective. Hask is going to spend 1 force to do a little bit of a dashy-do, and obviously he's within 4, so he gets 2 extra dice, and not a bad shot into Kanan. That's going to be 3 down the tree, getting a double shove, which is what we wanted, 3 damage, and again, we put the coordinated fire strain on Kanan. So after the first shove, we are going to follow up, and then we'll do a second shove, which this angle really makes it look like that shouldn't happen, but trust me, that's just weird camera stuff, looking a little funky there. That was a very legal shove on Kanan. As we follow up again with Hask, and finally he gets his little dash up the ingress point. He still has another action, but first Kanan is going to decide to whether or not he wants to trigger that strain, because he does get a reposition from his expertise. So I think we'll say screw it and go ahead. Using that reposition, taking 3 damage from the coordinated strain that the Dark Troopers gave us, staying within 2 to keep a body on that objective, and we might as well just send 2 back to Hask with deflect, since we've already burned the strain. Hask does flip that objective and give the Empire 3 points. But we put a lot of damage on Kanan, and that's not bad. The middle is going to go with the Dark Troopers as a fresh deck for the Rebels, gets them the Rebel Commandos. They're not my favorites, but I can live with them. I think there's a weird play where maybe we shove Hask away, get both bodies on the middle, and win via the Ezra tiebreak. But that costs a lot of force. And I think I want to save some force So first action, we're just going to move out of engagement with that bottom guy, and then move into engagement with the top guy, getting into melee with these darks. And we're just going to try to shove them all away. We just need to shove one. But we will start with the shot from below, and we're going to get not a bad roll from the Dark Troopers because not a lot of defense. 5 damage, shove, reposition. The Dark Troopers, of course, are immune pin. So really, that shove is really what we wanted. And you know what? I didn't learn from before, so I'm going to follow up that shove and engage Iden once again. Now we've got the punch, and that's going to be another good roll, getting those crits. The important 2 down the tree. Once again, Dark Troopers immune to pin. They've also got protection, so 2 damage down to 1. And get knocked away. So we don't even need the Ezra tiebreaker here. We just win it on merit, 1-0. We are going to follow up just to get a little bit closer to the middle as we literally cover the objective with the Rebel Commando. Rebels score 3 again, and both sides are gaining the momentum once again, so I don't love that. We want to break that cycle eventually. And then the Empire starting their deck with the Shatterpoint. And if I'm being honest, none of the activations are really calling to me. Maybe I should have thought about those Dark Troopers again and gone after the Rebel Commandos, but we'll try to play the long game, shuffle the Shatterpoint, but we draw Hask. And that is not good because he is the one guy who's already on an objective, and we don't want him to leave it because it is the double and Kanan's below. So we're going to start by moving away from Sabine. We'll take a shot into those Rebel Commandos at least. Coordinated fire strain from the Darks, and we will get 4 down the tree, which is not bad thanks to that extra hit. It's going to be 5 damage plus 1 from expertise, double shove, and Hask is going to stay where he is. The double shove will get that commando off of the objective, and we would win it back since we've got Dark Troopers outnumbering Ezra below 2-1. But it's pretty vulnerable, so I am going to pay 1 to long live the Empire and send a Dark Trooper up top because it just... otherwise, all the Rebels need is a dash, and they can steal that objective. And I really don't want that. So once again, 3 points for the Empire, hoping that we can just cycle 3 points on and off. The Rebels will respond, and they draw Kanan once again. That's a really good pull for them, I think. Sabine is definitely going to be able to dash in range of the objective now with that tactic. And because she is a Spectre, Kanan will get to do a little dash of his own. So he's going to come on up this ingress. We have some force, so we are going to pay 2 of it. Hask is within 3, so force push and yeet Hask into oblivion. Sabine is going to take that objective. And then Kanan will go for the kill on the Dark Trooper. Good rolls on both sides, but we will get enough with Kanan. 2 down the tree, 3 damage down to 2. That is the wound. Though just to take the objective, we didn't even need the kill because we did save that second action for Kanan, which will be a move action, even though he's already in contesting range. Because we're going to end the move at range 2 of Ezra, who will proc his reaction ability, since a Force user has ended a move action close to him, allowing Ezra to jump up and also contest the objective. So we've got 2 Rebels there, and Ezra has the tiebreak. That's going to be a nice and secure objective for us. Big turn for the Rebels as they score 4 and stop that cycle of 3-3-3-3. The double is with Sabine, and the Empire is going to draw Iden. Not great because she is engaged, pinned, and disarmed. We're not really in a position with her to score or to flip 2 different objectives, so we'd want to get the double, which means... well, we don't want to wound because of where Mando and Kanan are. We really need a double shove while disarmed, which is not all that likely. So I really don't think we have what it takes to flip the objective there with Iden. So we'll spend 1 and instead draw ISF, which is not great. They can take this objective, but they're going to have to wound Sabine in order to hold it for more than 1 turn. So starting with the guy on the right, that is going to be 3 crits down the tree, 4 damage down to 3 with a pin. And then the next guy will take a shot again, but that is a worse result. Nothing down the tree, even with the extra hit. So the second action will be a climb on both ISF, which brings them into range 2. They outnumber 2 to 1. They will secure the double, but at the end of the turn, they evaporate. This means that if Sabine stays where she is, the rebels will score 4 points again next round. So they are really in the driver's seat here. They basically just need to keep Sabine there and get a wound. Seems doable. Now, here's where I would show you guys the next order card being drawn, but I goofed and missed filming that, which maybe sounds sus, but whatever. I goofed. Sorry about that. Now, much like Rogue One, I will have to resort to reshoots. Oh, wow. The Shatterpoint is a really good pull there, and as I said, we just need a wound. And who's better at wounding than Big Daddy Kanan? So he is going to tell Sabine to remove her pin with his tactic, which allows him to then get a dash. And we're just going to focus and shoot Iden since she is hurting quite a bit. We're even spending one for the coordinated fire damage, wounding our own guys via strain. But it doesn't matter because 4 crits are going down the tree, enough damage to get the wound. I mean, technically Iden gets a heal for one of her conditions. It doesn't matter. Sabine flips and Rebels win the game with those 4 points. So that is it. Another game, a quick one for sure, with it ending in 2 struggles, just 10 turns for the Rebels. I will say that I have more experience playing with this Kanan Mando list than with the Empire, so I think definitely made a few mistakes as the Empire to exacerbate issues. But again, it was a very tough matchup because Iden loves to get wounds, but Kanan and Mando love it when you are wounding. I mean, as much as they can love their friends getting hurt. So what were the big mistakes? The first one, I would say, is the ISF on their first activation, where I elected to save a couple force and just take cover and move to flip the objectives. I think I should have eaten the cost, not only the 2 force to dash and focus, but also the deflect from shooting Mando a couple times, because I almost certainly would have taken the 2 damage back, but maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have gotten a strain on the first attack, and as I said in the last video with Mando, against the Republic Bad Batch list, you do have to wound him eventually, I think, in this matchup, because that threat is always there. Otherwise, if you can turn that off for a bit, that can be very helpful. So a little too conservative there. And then I think, obviously, the play with the Dark Troopers opening Struggle 2, I understand the thinking that I had behind it as far as trying to be a little more solid and less stretched out and vulnerable. My thinking was if I shoot the Rebel Commandos, I might not be able to flip that objective, and then, I have one guy on one objective, maybe one guy on the other objective, and Ezra can just hop up, steal it with his tiebreaker. Maybe the Rebels are scoring 4. It just felt a little too vulnerable, but obviously the result was bad, with basically not getting anything through on Ezra since he was able to dash back in position by the end of it. And Dark Troopers hit pretty hard, especially with 1 extra die thanks to the Hask ability. So I think I should have just gone for it and seen what I could do into those Rebel Commandos, who are a lot more vulnerable because of their bad defense than someone like Ezra. And then maybe with the Shatterpoint again, I should have taken a similar opportunity with those Darks to try to secure more objectives. For the Rebels, what can I say except that Kanan is an absolute beast. He is our MVP today. He can do everything. He can move friends on his activation. He's got diceless displacement, a really good ranged attack, a fine melee attack, and of course, those saucy revenge triggers. He basically did everything himself that second struggle. And if Sabine had just been a little bit closer to her objective, maybe it would have been even more of a blowout, as Kanan could have secured all the objectives on his turn there. So if you're playing competitive Shatterpoint, you're definitely going to want to have a plan on how you deal with Kanan. Be careful about when you assign wounds, and if you have stuff that can wound without attacking, like Cad, Wrecker, Chewie even, then that can be some decent counterplay as well. You can also just become familiar with all the things he can do by watching some more videos. We've got a few more Kanan things coming up, including our next full-on fancy battle report, which will be Thrawn and the Grand Inquisitor trying to take down the Spectres. So a nice thematic matchup for that. Rebels took round 1 today, but this fight is not over. There's certainly more episodes to come in this battle, so see you next time.